continuación tendremos la oportunidad de escuchar espero pronunciar bien el nombre, Genevieve Moineau. Bueno, ella es presidente de la CEO y la Asociación de Facultades de Escuelas de Medicina de Canadá. Tiene la representación de 17 escuelas de facultades de medicina y es una excelentísima promotora de la calidad de la educación en su país. Empezó obviamente su experiencia en el hecho de los portafolios y la forma bilingüe de la participación. La doctora Moineau está graduada en la Universidad de Ottawa y tiene, obviamente como yo, una excelentísima visión y por eso es pediatra. Es pediatra, hizo residencia de pediatría y ya es colaboradora como director en el Hospital de Emergencias de Pediatría de Ottawa. Y en esta ocasión está haciendo la práctica, continúa perfectamente la práctica de las urgencias médicas en el hospital de Ontario, el este de Ontario. Le solicito tome a bien el micrófono y le agradezco muchísimo su invitación. Welcome to her.
Muchas gracias. The second word. Thank you so much for that very kind introduction. And it is an honor to be here speaking to you with such a very accomplished panel. It is always a pleasure for me to be speaking after either Barbara Barzansky or Dan Hunt, because when I speak of accreditation, you will see in a moment why I can just say what they said. So let me explain to you. This morning I spoke to you as the President and CEO of the AFMC. So that was this, and I wore my jacket because I had to look like a President and CEO. But now I'm speaking to you wearing a different hat as the Secretary to the Committee of Accreditation of Canadian Medical Schools, or CACMS. And so it's a little bit of a split personality. When I'm President and CEO, my board are the deans of the 17 medical schools in Canada and public members. When I function as the Secretary to Accreditation, I sometimes have to be having crucial conversations with deans and other individuals within medical schools. So that will be changing shortly, but for now it's a bit of a dual personality. And just to remind you that as of now I'm speaking as a secretary, the jacket is off and I've got my sleeves rolled up. Everything that Barbara Barzansky just said is how it happens for Canadian medical schools with regard to accreditation standards and processes. And what I'd like to tell you now is the story of how Canada has had the privilege of being in this position. So tell you a little bit about the history, explain how things are happening now, and explain what the future will be for accreditation for Canadian medical schools. So it all started a long, long time ago when Abraham Flexner himself, many of you will know him as really the birth father of modern medical education, determined that it was time to visit medical schools in North America and really start what would eventually become the accreditation of schools in North America. In this first venture, he included the 8 Canadian medical schools, and this, as I say, is how the adventure of North American or accreditation in the US and Canada was developed. Fast forward to 1979, when the Canadian Medical Association, so the Association of Doctors in Canada, and the Association of Faculties of Medicine of Canada came together to create the Committee on Accreditation of Canadian Medical Schools. So as you heard from Barbara just a moment ago, the AMA and the AAMC are the sponsors of the Liaison Committee on Medical Education, and so in that image, the Canadian Medical Association and the Association of Faculties of Medicine of Canada are the co-sponsors of CACMS. So in Canada, from that point on, medical schools were actually accredited by both CACMS and the LCME. So we talk about dual accreditation. And in fact, letters that our schools receive now, accreditation letters, decision letters, are signed by both, by myself representing CACMS and by Barbara Barzansky and Dan Hunt as the co-secretaries of the LCME. There are some assumptions that are made in our accreditation process, and that is that not only are our schools, our faculties of medicine going through a process of accreditation of the MD program, but also that our students are in environments where there is accreditation of residency education, and in Canada that is provided by, for family medicine, the College of Family Medicine of Canada, and for other specialties, our Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada. And also that our schools have accreditation of their continuing medical education, and that is provided by the Committee of Accreditation of Continuing Medical Education, which I am also the secretary of. This is the pleasure of having 17 schools. You get to do many jobs. And again, this speaks to the continuum, the importance of the continuum of medical education as described earlier today. It's also assumed that our students will be in environments whereby the hospitals and other institutions of care are also accredited. And so again, the other piece relates to the accreditation of other health professions, and in Canada, many of our health professions are also certified and go through that similar process. I spoke earlier today about the importance in Canada for our faculties of medicine of the social accountability mandate from the World Health Organization, and you'll see how this shaped the next step for us in accreditation. I mentioned earlier our Future of Medical Education in Canada project. The first one was focused on MD education, where there was an enabling recommendation that spoke to the realignment of accreditation standards along that continuum. And here they spoke about aligning between MD education and residency education. We then had the project for residency education, and there again, one of the 10 main recommendations was to align accreditation standards. And here, in the key transformative action, they actually spoke about aligning along MD education, residency education, and continuing professional development. So as you can see, these recommendations were something that we really had a mandate to implement. And so when we looked at our MD accreditation, we really had to be able to move forward, develop some flexibility in our system that meant that we were not completely reliant on our American colleagues through the LCME on our accreditation, and that we needed to create a new reality for Canada. So after 2 years of discussion and negotiation, last fall we were able to come to an agreement, which really is a historic agreement, to allow Canadian medical schools to have more autonomy in their accreditation process, to thus respond to our need to align accreditation across our continuum. And so this Memorandum of Understanding, which was signed in December of 2013, allows CACMs to have the authority to add standards and elements to those standards. It allows CACMs to determine its own policies and procedures in order to ensure that our standards are meeting the needs of Canadians, and that, however, we are able to maintain the reciprocity that currently exists between our graduates, and also allow our schools to continue to have the dual accreditation that is very important to our schools. Again, now we were allowed to start proceeding with the alignment. And I have to say that none of this could have happened without outstanding leadership. And I'm glad he's in the room. This is Daryl Kirsch and I last night enjoying the wonderful Hawaiian evening before the rain started. And this really could not have happened without Daryl really believing that this was the right thing to do, and empowering his team to make it happen. So the benefits to this agreement really at the end allowed us to actually have a stronger collaboration between all of our organizations, and not only between Canada and the US, but in fact even between the two Canadian organizations, really made them confirm their interest in accreditation and wanting to be engaged in the process. And we actually now, with our new arrangement, will be more collaborative in our activities, in that we are all going to have representatives on each of our committees, and we will continue to work together in really what I see as a synergistic manner. One of the benefits for our Canadian schools is that it's going to really allow us to put the standards in a Canadian context, and so that the language makes a lot of sense. Now, the other thing that happened in the last year is that CACMs, along with the LCME, went through the process from the World Federation on Medical Education to be recognized. And so we're very pleased that we received a letter in April of 2014 from Stefan to say that CACMs is recognized for the next 10 years as an accreditor, and we had such a good report card that we have no follow-up for 10 years, which it doesn't ever happen like that for schools, that's for sure. And this is very valuable for us, and we're very thankful to have gone through that process with the LCME. So what does this mean for Canada? It means that we are going to, with our new set of standards and rules, be able to focus more again on our social accountability mandate of medical schools in Canada. We're going to be able to interpret diversity in more of a Canadian lens. We're going to be able to focus on important health issues for Canada, such as Aboriginal health. We're going to be bringing in an element on leadership curriculum, and this was actually at the request of our students. So you'll remember that in our Future of Medical Education documents, both MD and PG, we had fostering leadership development, and so in fact it's our students who made us put this in here. We're going to continue to really reinforce the importance of continuing medical education within our faculties of medicine, and there's a little bit of politics going on there. And we're going to look at other advances such as e-health and others. And again, very important for us to be able to change the language such that it actually makes sense for those who are in the front lines having to fill out the documentation for accreditation, so that it makes sense from a terminology perspective, from a legal perspective, and from a health system perspective. And again, I'm making all this sound really, really easy. This has been years of work, and again, none of this could have happened without the work of and the collaboration of the LCME. And again, here is Barbara Barzanski Baranski and Dan Hunt and I enjoying the hospitality yesterday evening. But again, like any family, when a family is going through a change process, you either get stronger or you go get apart. And here, there's no doubt in my mind that we are stronger for the process, and I thank them again from the bottom of my heart. And you saw my granddaughter this morning. Again, everything that we do here is for her future. Thank you very much.